Welcome to Recovery Inspired Hope. I'm so excited. I have my friend Shelley Bastion. She is going to be sharing her experience, strength, and hope in hopes that her story will help someone else. So Shelley, say what's up to everybody.
What's up, everybody? How are you doing? I am in northern Utah, yes.
If you want to kind of start, tell everybody a little.
I totally enjoy taking photographs. I love being on social media. I love helping people. You know, there's no bigger reward than helping people, doing service work. I do a lot of recovery stuff. I go to a lot of meetings. Recovery is the number one thing in my life. Without it, I wouldn't be who I am, or I'd probably be dead.
Facebook. Everybody check out Shelley's group, which is
It's chaotic memes. Go check it out.
with a K. Okay, get into it. Tell us a little bit about, what it was like.
Well, I started as an only child, and pretty much my parents gave me everything I wanted. So I went out into the world with my hand out, thinking, "You owe it to me. I want it." They were the best parents they possibly could have been, but I was enabled. So I had this narcissistic attitude. I still do, but I'm not shallow anymore. Anyway,
At
you
least
know,
you're aware, though. At least you're aware. You can tell you've done some
right.
work for sure.
I've done some work on this. Yeah. So my dad introduced me to crack cocaine at age 12, and he just passed away 4 days ago. I had
Aw.
some major resentments against him. Like, I'm sure we all have resentments against our parents in some way or another. And I hadn't talked to him in a couple of years. I called him um, just because I knew I would regret that if I didn't. And it was all good, all the resentments and everything bad I felt about him. When I saw him on video, he was so small and frail and he couldn't hurt me anymore. And it was a good ending. It was a good conversation. So that's my part where my dad, he introduced me to a lot of drugs, but I've been forgiven for a lot of things. And I think he needs to be forgiven too. Um, yeah, that's tough. And then I did crack till I was 18. And I looked up, I was in a room one time and we were all carpet surfing. I'm sure people know what carpet surfing is. If you have any addicts in here, it's where you're down on the floor looking for little white things to smoke because you think it's crack. And I looked up and there's a 40-year-old and a 50-year-old and a 60-year-old in those ages. And here I am at 18. I got up from that floor and never did that again because I didn't want that to be me. I still used. I quit when um, I was clean for 17 years before I relapsed in 2018. And my date is December 31st, 2018. So I just hit my 4-year mark. And dude, we all have our ups and downs. Just because you're in recovery or you're in a 12-step program does not mean that your life's going to be unicorns and rainbows. You know, um, it just teaches you to look at things differently. And I just want to share this experience. I started going to recovery when I was still using. And then finally, I decided what those people had, I wanted. And I finally surrendered for the first time in my life. And I got my answer, I got my awakening. And like I said, I was a narcissist, I still am. But I could see everything I was doing to everybody overnight. Overnight. It was a pure miracle. My husband would even tell you I've switched like night and day. And so that was my blessing, my awakening. And like there's 5 things in recovery. I know we're going to talk about other things, but there's 5 things in recovery that I feel like you need to succeed. Yeah, meeting makers do make it, but I feel like you have to have you have to have a connection with your higher power. Even if you have resentments, you're agnostic, whatever, you need to figure that out. It doesn't have to be a higher power of anybody else's understanding. It's your understanding. So if you want to follow other people in the religion, great. But if you want to get a connection with your higher power that only you understand, you know. And so higher power, meetings, sponsor, because you need to build that rapport because it's like picking up the 5,000-pound phone. You don't want to call anybody with your problems, you know, and step work, which people don't do it, but they're really missing out when they don't do it. And then service work. Service work is the biggest thing that I've ever felt. In like, if somebody offered me $5 million to never feel that again, I wouldn't do it, because it's the biggest payment that you could possibly receive, and the unconditional love that you receive from these rooms. Anyway.
Wow. Now that was some straight wisdom, Shelley. So okay, 13 years old and your father gives you crack. I mean, I can't even imagine, like I'm thinking about like 13 years old, what do the other 13-year-olds think about, or 12, 12. Yeah. I
Yeah.
mean, we're like, I think I was still playing with Barbies when I was 12,
Yeah.
so such a young age to be, introduced. Now, were you in school at all, or were you out of school?
No, I was in school. Okay, so my real dad gave me up, and my adopted dad adopted me, the one that was married to my mom. Yeah, we could talk about molestation there too. He never had intercourse with me, but he was always trying to get with me from age 10 on. So, and I'm not trying to play victim here. This is just what's happened. And I'm trying to get through it with counseling and therapy. And, my mom informed me that I wasn't molested because he didn't have intercourse with me. But there were so many other things. So it's okay. Like, that's something I'm dealing with, because I'm like, am I overreacting? Was I molested or was I not molested?
I feel like when something is inappropriate.
Right.
Yes.
Right. And some people say he didn't molest me, but he groomed me. But I looked up the definition, and it says any unwanted sexual advances or whatever. And that's a hard one for me to deal with, because my dad just died on Saturday. And I wanted to make amends with my mom, because I don't want to be in the same situation. And she was very rude and told me I wasn't molested. And that's a hard one to swallow, especially when it's your mom that's supposed to be protecting you, you know?
Absolutely. Yeah. Your mom. And then also that affects, every other relationship with a female for the rest of your life.
Yep, it sure does. And unfortunately, things like that cause PTSD. I mean, you think PTSD is from guys that go to war, but unfortunately, I believe that the majority of our people have some sort of PTSD without even knowing, you know. I think that they think it's such a minimal thing, or they're just having a bad day. But, people I talk to, they're like, well, do you ever have this? And I'm like, yeah, honey, that's PTSD. So
Yeah,
anyway.
absolutely. Yeah. And people, I feel like, especially like, depending on what kind of family you're from,
Yeah.
I come from like a Sicilian family where it's like, nobody talks about the elephant in the room, nothing goes
Right.
outside the family, stop crying, get over
Yeah, it's all
it.
right here. We don't share it with anybody. This is how it is.
Mhm.
Right.
Exactly. And that's so not how things should be. And it creates, like PTSD is a real thing. And you're so right. I
It
mean,
is.
you can get it, like you can be traumatized from so many different things. I feel like you said, like everybody is traumatized in one way or another,
Right.
because we're,
I just don't think they realize it as much. But
Mhm.
that makes me feel bad that so many people are coping with this by themselves. You
Yeah,
know, with the whole medical thing, they put people in jail, and they're awful to them, when the majority of the time it's mental illness, you know.
right. Absolutely. Absolutely. And talking about going to jail. I mean, I don't know if you've ever been arrested, but man, does that cause some PTSD too? It's like,
Dude, we won't go into that. I was attacked by a couple of cops for no reason at the hospital, and I have severe PTSD. If I see an officer, I start freaking out. Um, Yeah, not good. And see, I was one of those people that thought, oh, the police are wonderful. You know, you're not getting attacked unless you did something to get attacked. Well, I found out that's not the truth. So, I mean, I still am for all of them. I still think they need funding. But I just think that some of them need to be more compassionate.
Right. Yeah, absolutely. I agree with you on that for sure. So you at such a young age had 17 years in recovery. I
Yeah.
mean, that is that to be a person, an 18-year-old and say, I'm going to be in
Well,
recovery.
no, I didn't stop crack. I stopped crack at 18. I
Okay.
didn't stop everything until 2001.
Okay.
And and then I had 17 years clean.
Still very young though, to be, what I mean?
Yes. I wasn't in recovery though. I
Okay.
was clean,
Hmm.
but there's a difference. In recovery, you're bettering yourself. It's not just a drug and alcohol program, it is a life program. Okay. When you start a 12-step program, you better just give up your life because that's what it's about. And it's not giving up your life, it makes your life a million times better. You know, and you start to see things differently and it's not near as bad. I mean, it's not even close. So I didn't have recovery in those 17 years. I'll tell you what
Okay.
I usually tell people, you know, when I had my awakening, it was like a black and white silent film before my awakening. And then after that, it was like Dolby, digital sound, 3D, in your face, action, adventure, horror. It's almost being blindfolded your whole life. Or it's almost being like, you know, when you're by a fire and all you can see is like smoke, you can't see through it. Well, that's kind of what it was like without recovery. When I got into recovery, it was unicorns and rainbows because compared to my old life, yeah, it's unicorns and rainbows. You know, it teaches you how to look at things differently. And just looking at things differently changes your whole life. You know, and doing it teaches you how to do gratitude list and book work and read meditations. And it's just all good. It's what normal people do on a regular basis. We're just a little slower.
I'm definitely I'm a 12-step baby myself. So
Good.
that was my pathway. Started with NA, then did AA, then did Celebrate
Yep.
Recovery. Done the steps several times and love, taking women through the steps. That's
Right. So you
super
know how
blessing.
important the steps are.
I mean, yeah, like for me, I mean, I know some people, you know what I mean? I know there's different pathways, but for me, I
That's
can
the pathway.
say
Yep.
that 12 step changed my life. It helped me get myself out of the way. It helped me forgive myself. It helped me get a connection back with God. It helped
Yeah.
me learn where I was wrong. It helped me be accountable, and it helped me to forgive, and it helped me to learn how to carry a message to someone else, and it
Right.
helped me learn how to have relationships with other women, because
Right.
like with your mom, I had a lot of rejection stuff with my mom, a lot
Yeah.
of things, and it was like I didn't trust women, so
Me neither.
yeah, having to have a sponsor. And I remember, well, you have to call me every day for 30 days. Like, what? Call you for what? It was it was so awkward at first. Step work for me, that was my pathway. Going back to the 5 things you talked about, service work is definitely, I call it my love language in recovery.
Me too. Me too. It's funny you say that because I say the exact same thing.
It's like I feel like if a person can figure out what their love language is in recovery, where they
Yeah.
fit in to serve, like you can keep that passion and fire growing for recovery forever,
Right.
right? So because
That's if you want to continue to do the work and you don't get complacent like a lot of people do,
right,
you know.
right.
And but the thing is they forget what it's like to be a newcomer. They forget how important what they're doing is. And they start to get complacent. And these are the people I hate to see because they've got so many years of recovery and they think, "Oh, I got this." And
Mhm.
they don't.
And the thing
So,
the good thing is, you know, we're talking about meetings, you know, like me and my husband went to one, and we were kind of having like a bad, you know, bad day. We were kind of arguing and stuff like that. And so
Yeah,
we go to this meeting and we're hearing, you know, these women share about like, oh, and you know, I got to see my kids for the first time in 2 months. Oh, and I'm
dude. And
graduating my program, and oh, I'm trying to find a place to live. And I'm just like, oh wow, well, maybe our problems aren't, you know what I mean, as grand,
right,
you know what I mean? Like we forget what it's like.
we do. And that's why the newcomers are so important. You know, we can't keep what we have unless we give it away. And if there's no newcomer, I mean, we can give it away to other people because you can always learn something from somebody. But um, newcomers are who we need to remember what it was like, to not make those mistakes again, you know, to help with at least some words of advice and a hug. You know, I hug every single person that comes in the room. And I've had a pat on the back from that. I'm not even sharing about the pat on the back, but dude, I've had several people say, I didn't feel comfortable here until Shelley gave me a hug, and now I feel good. You know, nobody does that anymore. Nobody hugs people that they don't know, you
Mm-hmm.
know, and it makes me sad because I thought that's what the program was about, you
Yeah,
know?
there's definitely been a lot of changes and a lot
Hmm.
more, I call it just distraction, but division and segregation, you know, because of
Yep.
pathways and whatever, and you know what I mean, like that, like we are called to, you know, to love each other and to help each other, and that's what
Yep.
we're supposed to do no matter what. So um really, like in the rooms, I feel like it definitely has changed, like since I came in like 2015, you know, where people used to stand
Yeah.
at the door. There was someone who stand at the door, hey, how are you today?
That's what I do. That's what I do. And it makes me sad. And even, you know, and I'm not trying to bitch about NA or AA, but like you'll have your newcomers come in and nobody talks to them after except for me. And they're mostly guys. I can't be their sponsor. You know,
Right.
I can be their trusted friend, but it makes me sad because where we're at, people are lacking. And so I always step up and you know, welcome those newcomers. Even though I can't be their sponsor, they need to know that they're loved regardless of what's going on in the room.
Right, absolutely.
And
So you came in, did you go through a treatment program, or did you just start going to meetings?
no, I just it's kind of a funny story. I have a meth house next door. It used to be a meth house. And there was a young lady that was 24 and her boyfriend or fiance that was 23, and they had a little 2-year-old girl. Well, on Christmas night, it was snowing, and the lady that lived upstairs with her husband kicked them out in the middle of the night with their 2-year-old little girl. And so we let them stay in the basement. And the 24-year-old was a wet brain. And I hate to say that, but she, at 24, she'd been drinking since she was 11. And hopefully she gets better, but it was bad. And then her fiance was using meth. So even though I'm using Coke, I thought I'm going to take it for recovery. I'm going to help them. I don't need help, but I'm going to help them. And I took them. Then they stopped going, and I kept going. And I started in November, the middle of November. And like I said, I quit December 31st. So meeting makers do make it if you just keep going back. You know, you'll eventually be like, I don't like this life. These people have a really good life. I don't want this life, you
Mhm.
know? And that's what's so important about that program.
And I love how December 31st is your day, because it's like such an amazing holiday. Like, what a way to start off like a new year.
Right?
Not just a new year, but this is going to be a new life, a new season
Right.
for me. That is
And
something.
it has been, dude. It has been. I mean, I still have my mental problems because I'm whatever they want to diagnose me with this week. I have a ton. Anyway,
Same
no,
here.
it's hard, you know, when you do drugs. See, I was on the same meds, mental meds, for 15 years. I relapsed for 6 months, and now my meds don't work the same. Um, they don't work anywhere close to the same. I was never suicidal. And see, I was terminally ill too from 2010 to 2016. Never suicidal through any of that time. I had never had a suicidal thought since 2004. And then I got in recovery, and you know how everything boils to the surface that you've been pushing down with drugs and alcohol. Well, that threw me for a loop. But um, I'm learning that even though you're in recovery, things will throw you for a loop. And it's all how we look at it. So, you know,
Absolutely. And so you said that you were married.
25 years.
Okay. Give me some wisdom.
Dude, let me tell you, I met him in Wendover at a blackjack table. And there was like 60 people around our table because I had everybody holding hands and cheering, and not one person busted. The blackjack, the lady busted every single time. And then she's to me and Bill, she's like, "Oh, you two get married." And we're like, "We don't even know each other." "Oh, you two get married." And so since that day on, we've been together every single day, except when I had to go to Bethesda, Maryland to the Undiagnosed Disease Center for 2 weeks. And when I testified against child predators, I used to work with Dateline to catch a predator. I
Oh,
don't know if you've ever seen
really?
those shoes. Yeah.
Wow. I
Yeah.
that's so what so you worked with like their online team?
No, we were called Perverted Justice. And before anybody knew about us,
I feel
we in
like
the
I've
first
heard of
two
that.
lines, huh?
I feel like I've heard of that.
Probably in the first two lines, we'd always say our name, age, and sex, location, so we didn't entrap anybody. And finally, we started doing Bust with Dateline. Well, the first three shows that aired, there were no police there. Police would never help us because we were vigilantes. And then Dateline got involved, and America went in an uproar seeing all this, going, "Why aren't the police there? What is going on?" Because this was in 91, or excuse me, 2001. When you're first getting your home computers in the house, and parents had no idea that their kids were being groomed. And that's when the police got involved. And they didn't do anything. They just booked them. We gave them all the information and everything. But I also helped train ICAC, which is Internet Crimes Against Children. That came after Dateline. I worked hand in hand with Senator Orrin Hatch to pass the National Sex Offender Registry. So, yeah, I've done some good things in my life.
Wow.
Hopefully it makes up for the bad things.
Yeah, I mean, but talk about, turning your pain into purpose. I mean, nobody was able to help you at that time, but you
Right,
have gone and helped all of these people now and put all of this stuff in place so that children don't have to go through the same things that you went through. So,
right, right. And that's a scary thing is I was just talking to a few guys. How many guys are out there talking to how many kids?
mm,
Dude, it's terrifying.
mhm.
So,
Yeah, it is. I know of a guy in Athens that does that as well, and he was having just so much trouble trying to get the police involved and stuff like that. So,
well, not everybody does it legally.
mhm,
See, what's scary with the police is logs can be changed. But the thing with us and why they trusted us so much is because we have backed up logs in two different states. So it couldn't be messed with.
right,
It was pure evidence.
right.
So, and
Wow.
we stopped doing it because a district attorney got caught and he killed himself. So there was lawsuits with Dateline, and that's why it ended.
Really?
Yeah.
Wow. So the district attorney got caught trying to lure a child.
And then he killed himself. So the rest of those people, in that area sued Dateline, but
Mm.
they didn't win, but still.
Wow. So what do you do now? What is Shelley's life like now?
Um, I help people. That's my main thing that I do. Um, I love photography and traveling and being with my husband. I work in beauty, health, and wellness. It's just kind of a little business that I do. Um, Sometimes people pay me to go shopping for them, like $100, and I go buy them like 2 outfits and a pair of shoes, and that'll cost me like $30 at Savers. And they know it. They just want to dress like me. So
Hey, that's
I get
okay
the clothes.
though. You do have fabulous eyelashes.
Thank you. Thank you. They're strip on, they come off.
I can never do those myself.
Dude, it took a lot of practice. It took a lot of practice to figure out how to do that.
Today you are a wife, and do you have any goals or inspirations in the future to open up any kind of, recovery organization or
Yes,
center?
I do. I'm hoping to get famous on YouTube like everybody else. Um, but if it does come to that, I'm going to open a recovery house. Um, I'd really like to. Other than that, I want to open a business that would be called Shelley's Oddities. And there'd be like skulls and like dead people's parts. I love the dead. I drive a hearse. Okay.
Okay, cool. That's super cool. You're gonna have to send me a picture of that for the thumbnail.
Absolutely.
Do
Oh, let me.
do you know about USARA?
You, Sarah?
Yes.
I am familiar with the name. I have not worked with them at all yet. I plan on it because they have some meetings there that are nowhere else. And I know that they're a great facility. When they first opened up, I went and got some Narcan from them,
Mhm.
just because I go to so many meetings and I like to have it in all my cars. So if somebody is having a problem, I can help them.
Yes. So, which is so important. Carrying Narcan, being
Yep.
educated how to use it, it is so, so important. So, USARA, the people who created USARA got certified as recovery coaches through Georgia Council on Substance Abuse, which is where I am certified through. So, we went through training together, actually.
Nice.
Yeah. So I
Nice.
know a little bit about you, Sarah, and I've been to some of their virtual trainings and stuff that they do. They're a great organization, so you should definitely link up with them for
But
sure.
see, they work a 12-step program because I heard a rumor that they don't.
They are multiple pathways, so they're open to everything.
Okay,
Yeah.
okay, okay.
Definitely.
That's the only thing that's kept me away is because I don't want another program. I want my 12-step program. You
Right.
know,
We'll see you next time on Recovery Inspired Hope. Make sure you subscribe to Jamie Tall on YouTube, and we will see you soon.